Here's Prescott. Just throws it deep as far as his arm can take him. He caught it! Micah Parsons on the move. Micah Parsons is in! Welcome to the big show, Tony Pollard. Oh, going deep. It is intercepted.
But I'm not going to say a word, but I will say one thing right now.
Prescott, touchdown. Good protection, and the pass wide open. Touchdown, Lamb.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. It is Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here today, and we are talking about this wide receiver room. Why? Because we're continuing the position evaluation series for the Dallas Cowboys of 2023. And if you missed the last episode where we touched up on the running backs, you'll have a title card at the very end of the video where you can go check out that video. Also, before we begin, please make sure to hit the like button to show your support and fight against the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell as well. We're close to 12,000 subscribers. Let's try to hit that goal before training camp as well. Thank you guys so much for your love and support. So talking about this wide receiver core, we know who number one is. CeeDee Lamb, man, he has been one of the most electric players in the NFL, especially as he went through that progression in year 3. You know, and he's very young too, all things considered. And historically speaking, some or even most wide receivers, especially the superstar ones, take about 3 years to really come into their own. There's very rare instances where guys come in and they're already dominating. And to be fair, I think that if Dak Prescott doesn't get hurt in 2020, I think CeeDee Lamb ends up, developing and getting that connection with Dak Prescott a lot quicker. But we are seeing that before our very eyes, and he has become a dominant force on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't really have to go much further than there because he's pretty much breaking every accolade and also really every record that the Cowboys have to offer. So, with that being said, let's move over to the guys behind him because that's really the biggest question mark. And did the Cowboys do enough to add enough weapons in that passing game for Dak Prescott? And we'll talk about the tight ends as well. Look, we know the Cowboys traded for Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is a interesting selection for the Cowboys here because when you look at everything else, the Cowboys typically like taller receivers. Brandon Cooks is under 6 foot. He's 5'11", and he has something that we've been looking for a number 2 or a number 3 wide receiver: speed. We haven't had a guy that the type of speed that Brandon Cooks has in quite some time, and Brandon Cooks has been a very productive player. He's been moving around from team to team, and regardless of the circumstances, he's been a 1,000-yard receiver. We'll see if that continues in Dallas, but I really do like the addition of Brandon Cooks. The Cowboys get a certified number 2, 3 wide receiver, and I'm going to talk about why I say 2, number 3 in just a moment. But you get someone that's a pass catcher that can go deep that isn't CeeDee Lamb or even Michael Gallup, and it's really going to help Dak Prescott, especially when you're trying to run a new offense that's more West Coast orientated and, you're relying on these quick dudes. That's what I love about Brandon Cooks. I'm a big fan of Brandon Cooks. I've talked about how the Cowboys were interested in him last year, and I'm a big fan of him. I'm glad he's on the Cowboys. So I'm hoping that he can be a solid number 2. I'm not asking for the dude to be a number 1. I'm just asking for the guy to be a solid number 2 and do his thing. Next, moving to number 3, Michael Gallup is number 3 until further notice. Why? Because he came back from that injury way too quickly, and he was trying to put the pieces together, and he just wasn't fully recovered. And that hurts the Cowboys because you were kind of relying on this dude to be your number 2 wide receiver, and he really didn't, produce on that level. I'm not saying the dude was trash. It's just there's worries there, and he's on the Cowboys for at least the next 2 seasons, and, we really don't want to have a buyer's remorse as we move further and further away. And you saw what Amari Cooper did. Space, stop bringing up Amari Cooper. It's part of it. You made the decision to keep Michael Gallup, and if Michael Gallup can return and be a very damn good receiver that we know he can be when he's fully healthy and fully removed from that injury, I don't think anybody's going to be missing Amari Cooper. But with that being said, those are the three guys that I think are your starters. Lamb, Cooks, and Gallup. And the key thing about adding Cooks in here and getting Gallup back to full strength, the guys behind him don't have to play hero for the Dallas Cowboys. We start off with number 4. I think Jalen Tolbert is the number 4 wide receiver as of this point in time because of the value the Cowboys put in him when they drafted him and also the talent. Listen, people are forgetting the type of guy that Jalen Tolbert can be, and I think what really hurt him ultimately was the fact when he came to the Cowboys, he was in an offense that had a lot of option routes, and it really fried his ability to, be a productive player. There were glimpses in the preseason where you saw what he can be, and, I think the key thing is his role now is to be a Cedric Wilson type of player, a guy that can come in, make some plays or two, and just continue to grow here. And I think the Jalen Tolbert pick is going to be important, especially down the road, because remember, the guy's got 3 more years left on his contract, and if you know, Brandon Cooks and also Michael Gallup have really 2 more years on their current deals. I understand, Gallup agreed to this long extension. There's the options and stuff like that for the Cowboys. So, it's really looking at Brandon Cooks. If Brandon Cooks, right, can, continue to help these young guys out, and that's what I love about taking Brandon Cooks and bring him over to the Cowboys, is because he is a veteran dude that's been through it all, been through many systems, different quarterbacks, very, very damn good veteran presence, not only for just him and the young guys, also, Michael Gallup and also CeeDee Lamb especially. That's really, really important. And I think that by having a guy like a Jalen Tolbert to be as productive as that, he can ease himself into the league better. And I think that the West Coast offense that Mike McCarthy is going to try and employ can be much better than we think. And then you go to the other guys like Simi Fehoko, for example, right? As I take a look at this roster, I think Simi Fehoko is number 5 at this point in time. Again, a guy that's shown glimpses in preseason action, but not a whole lot more. And it's kind of hard because once you really get past 4, it's really unless someone gets hurt, that's it. Like, you look at a guy like Noah Brown. No offense to him, but at best he's a 4 or a 5 in the rest of the NFL. But he was asked to be a number 2, and, we're like, oh my God. And this is exactly the problem is, like, I think that we overhype certain players. And while I like Simi, I think he's a great guy, he's got a lot to do to prove himself because you have a lot of other talent on this roster that could come up and take his spot. So, not saying that it's through this order, but there's other names. You got a guy like Jalen Brooks who was added in the rookie class. Kevontae Turpin's a name we need to keep an eye out on because the Cowboys are keeping him to be a return specialist. Then you go through other names. You got Dennis Houston. You also have Tyron Johnson, I believe David Durden, Dontario Drummond, and Jose Barbon, and also Jalen Monero Cropper, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I did not. But you have a lot of these other dudes in the mix. We know Dennis Houston is liked by Dak Prescott and this coaching staff, but realistically, with the addition of Brandon Cooks, it kind of pushes everybody down that isn't CeeDee Lamb or Michael Gallup. So you kind of had to say to yourself, okay, well, what can the Cowboys reasonably do here, or what is the main plan here? I think the plan should be, we know what CeeDee Lamb can be, it's the question of those behind him. Because as we saw in the playoff game versus the 49ers and throughout the entire season, if CeeDee Lamb was not on a tear, there were issues. Just call a spade a spade. The offense was filled with guys that were way too, I guess, underqualified in a sense, because you're asking 3s and 4s to be your 2 and 3s, and it's just like, oh God, like, what are we doing here? But if I had to make a prediction right now, I think that it's Lamb, Cooks, Gallup, Tolbert, Simi, and Houston. I think that's your 6. I'm not including Turpin because we know what Turpin does on the special team side of things, but a lot of these other dudes have a lot to prove, and so the question is what's the letter grade? Well, I think at this point, I'm going to have to say it's a B+. plus maybe. And the reason I'm kind of on the maybe is because it's coming down to a couple factors. It's really, Michael Gallup, Jalen Tolbert, and Simi Fehoko. With Michael Gallup, we still don't know how he's going to look post-injury still. Now a full year removed and a whole offseason to recover without, rehabilitating and all that other stuff. Jalen Tolbert, we don't know what this guy can really be. And if he is a dud, Cowboys need to get that fixed ASAP. And then Simi Fehoko, again, same thing. But then again, there's more pressure on Tolbert. And I think Tolbert has a nice mindset from what we've been seeing. And I want the guy to succeed. I'm just a bit worried for some of these other dudes because, again, we need to have as much firepower as possible. And if Tolbert starts stepping up, a lot of the guys behind him are going to have to really step up. So with that being said, guys, I really don't have much more to say other than that's your wide receiver room. I'm going to give it a B+, fringe B, close to. And maybe I'm being too harsh. You guys tell me down below. What do you guys think about this wide receiving core? And I will catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys. Have a good one. Goodbye.